Hey friends, welcome back. So in this video, I hope to convey to you some tips that I've learned over the years to make fasting a little bit easier. This can be challenging. And when I talk about making fasting easier, I'm really kind of speaking about that 18-hour to 20 to 24-hour mark. It can become challenging for a lot of people. So we're going to talk about foods that you should start your fast with, meaning what your last real meal would be before you start your fast, and the cephalic phase of digestion and some of the cravings. So I'm Mike Mutzel, and you're tuning into High Intensity Health. As always, super grateful that you're here. Now, if you want more details, more content all about fasting, we have courses below. How to successfully really conquer the eating one meal a day, how to blend or marry intermittent fasting with exercise, especially for women. There's courses below. So let's just dive into it. What you need to understand and what we've learned working with clients over the years, my wife and I, Deanna, is really your last meal needs to have adequate fat. And so what we both found is if you don't have enough calories or enough fat in your last meal and you have a little glucose dip, it really kind of kickstarts whether it's an OMAD type fast or some sort of prolonged feeding window compression or even a more prolonged fast, it makes it more difficult. And you start to crash earlier and you might have, sleep issues. You might be a little bit more stressed out. So you want to make sure that your last meal is relatively low in carbohydrates, a kind of a keto style meal, and has ample fat. And you might be wondering, well, how much fat, Mike? I mean, what if I weigh 180 pounds or I weigh 120? I don't know exactly what your macros are. Everyone's a little bit different, whether or not you're trying to lose weight or you're physically active or what have you. But I should say you need to be very satiated with the amount of fat and protein that you have in your last meal before you start your fast. And so if you have a lot of high glycemic carbohydrates, sweets, dessert, cookies, things like that, even non-nutritive sweeteners, allulose and stevia, things like that, it's going to make it a little bit more challenging because you're kind of feeding the insulin glucose monster. Again, I'm not an anti-carbohydrate person. I'm not always zero carbs necessarily. I cycle carbohydrates and so on. But that's just what I've found to be, very effective for both myself, family members and clients that we work with, okay? Now, the thing that you need to understand here, transitioning more to the cephalic phase of digestion and some of the kind of the pre-meal insulin release and some of the cravings that can accompany fasting and how you can mitigate those or be aware of those, is you need to kind of remove yourself from being around food in your environment. So the body is always conditioned to maintain homeostasis, to maintain balance, right? So if you're always eating at noon and 6 p.m. every day, you're going to start to be hungry at around noon or shortly thereafter and 6 p.m. every day. So when you're trying to do a 24-hour fast, it's natural to have cravings around that time because of the cephalic phase of digestion. There's going to be some pre-meal insulin release. There's going to be an upregulation of various gastrointestinal hormones to help process the food that your body is anticipating eating, because the more pre-phase, pre-meal release of things, that means the less metabolically disruptive from a homeostatic balance standpoint that meal will be. Again, the body's always trying to anticipate, right? And so it's natural to have the cravings around when your mealtime would normally be, scheduled. And so you're gonna run into this issue when you fast. And this is where the mental exercise comes in. And so I personally, I do fasting, like I'm fasted as we make these videos. Part of it is health, part of it is metabolic health and longevity. The other part of it is pure mental. It's a great mental exercise. I've learned a lot from watching, various people and listening to folks, Tim Ferriss talk about stoicism and the stoic practices, and David Goggins. And I think there is something to be said about being more resilient, doing things you don't really want to do because it makes you mentally stronger. And so this is where the mental practice of fasting comes in. Now, if you just cave into these cravings every time, if you just caved into all your impulses, I want to go spend $500 on Amazon. I need this new camera. I just want to go eat a pizza. If you always, reacted and listened to these impulses, your life would probably not be that great, and you would be unsatisfied. And so this is where fasting comes in from a mental strategy standpoint. Is you're going to have this cephalic phase of digestion kicking in. You're going to be hungry, right? And you need to navigate that from a mental discipline standpoint. And this is, I think, one of the under-recognized benefits to fasting and why a lot of people do fast, because of this mental exercise. So just understand and recognize that you will be hungry at your regularly scheduled meal intervals. Okay, you're gonna have cravings. You're gonna feel like I need to break my fast. I don't know if I can do this. There's gonna be doubt. All that stuff is gonna go through your head. But it's up to you whether you decide to push through that and create, workarounds and so forth. And so one thing that I do on Mondays when I don't eat, Metabolic Monday, it's my kind of 24-hour fast, is I realize that, over many failures starting this, like in 2018, I realized that, man, I can't be around my family having dinner because I'm going to want to eat. It's when we normally eat, like our biggest meal is dinner. So now I could just beat myself up over it and say, you're a failure, you suck, you don't have the willpower, you're not disciplined enough. All those things ran through my mind, but I realized that, what? It's going to be challenging. So what do I do instead? I go to a yoga class, right? So between 6:30 and like 7:45, Deanna and my daughter are having dinner. I don't have to worry about that. I'm doing exercise, I'm sweating, I can, work on my breath work. And by the time I get home, it's around, it's like early 8:15 or something like that. Everything's winding down. There's no more smells of food in the kitchen, right? There's leftovers already in the refrigerator. And it's like, what? I don't want to eat that late anyway, because even if I wanted to break my fast and I was super hungry and all that, it's too late. It's like, I know it's going to negatively compromise my sleep. So it's easier just to have some red mineral salt and some water, drink it and go to bed, right? So again, it's instead of calling myself a failure, thinking I can't do this, caving to my cravings, I just created a small little workaround, and it's going to yoga. For you, it might be you go visit a friend. You say, hey, pal, hey, Sally, every Monday, I'm coming to your house. You're like, have dinner early. I'm going to come over. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to talk. We're going to learn a language together. Maybe you schedule a guitar lesson. Maybe you learn the piano and you schedule it during the most challenging period of your fast, right? So this is where it's kind of these non-nutritive, non-food conversations kind of come into the narrative of fasting to create almost distractions, because it's ingrained in your body and your mind. It's almost not natural to intentionally avoid food, right? I mean, it's not really from an evolutionary standpoint speaking, we're wired to consume food because we've never, for all of human history, we've never been in this situation where there's food available 24/7, unseasonally available. We can have any food we want at any time. We don't even have to leave our house. We can just order it on our phone. That's a very unforeign, unnatural, whether you think about intelligent design, natural selection, evolution, whatever you believe in, this is very unnatural. So we need to create unnatural environments to put our body to help mitigate, this oversupply of food that we're exposed to. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea. Again, just to kind of summarize, it's totally natural to be hungry when you normally would eat. This is natural. It's normal to have cravings. It's normal to want to break your fast, but the onus is on you to create workarounds so that you don't do that. And part of the benefits of fasting is not just metabolic. It's not all nutritionally related. It's a mental exercise. And I think that's where you'll notice that, wow, I can do something that most people don't want to do. For example, just the other day, I was leaving my brother's house and I started my 36-hour fast. Last night, it was like 7 p.m. I started it, and I was very curious about how many people were using the Zero app to fast. It was 370,000. I thought, wow, that's a lot of people. But then I realized there's over 300 million people in the whole United States, right? And I don't know how many people are using this app. It's probably about 80 to 85% American citizens. So I was like, wow, that's such a small percentage of the population is actually even doing this. Even though it seems that intermittent fasting or time-restricted feeding is so popular, very, very few people are doing it because they don't have the discipline. They don't have the willpower. They don't have the mental fortitude that it takes to go without food and to do something that most people don't want to do. Most people don't have the mental discipline to start a business. Most people don't have the mental discipline to quit their job and travel, to do something, to start a company, a great company like Amazon. Most people don't have the discipline to work like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. And I'm not saying you need to be that person, but I want you to think about, if you're going to have and do extraordinary things in your life, you have to start to do things that most people do not want to do. And you need to be, to put yourself in situations that you don't, that most people don't want to do. And that's how you're going to grow as a person. So again, I didn't expect this conversation to transition naturally into a mindset conversation, but I think that's one of the mental health benefits that comes with fasting. And that's the beauty of it. It has both cardiometabolic, body composition restructuring, longevity benefits, and most importantly, and the reason why I do it, is for the mental health. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And again, we have some great courses available for you over on our link below here, courses.highintensityhealth.com, where you can learn more about autophagy, intermittent fasting, eating 1 meal a day, and exercise, and much more. So grateful that you're tuning in all the way. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button. Definitely subscribe so you get pinged when we launch new videos like this, and we interview experts in the field of metabolism, nutrition, and ketogenic dieting. So we'll catch you on a future episode. Thanks all.